Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Excited for today's guest. She is a business operations expert and the founder of Virtual Assistant Management. Very excited to be rocking out today with Molly Rose Speed because she helps people to become VAs and she also helps businesses to find VAs. So this is a very, very good topic for a Work at Home Rockstar podcast episode. Excited to be rocking out today. So are you ready to rock?
I am so excited to be here. Thanks, Tim.
Great. So we always start off on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
Virtual assistant, also a friend of mine, my first that I trained, did the VA path for several years and just called me yesterday elated because she landed a full-time virtual position as a brand manager for a cybersecurity company, making really fantastic money, 10% bonus at Christmas, 2 raises a year, a retreat in Greece, team meetings, like the full package, all while working remote. And I didn't soak it in at the time, but just hearing her voice and how excited she was to have this, it just validated what I do and just super exciting to see this, that VAs can go from managerial admin work to being brand managers for a really cool up and coming company. So really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. That came up recently too. Like VA is like a great starting place for pretty much anywhere you want to go because you're becoming like an assistant of somebody who's running a business. So you're getting to learn what they do, and they're starting to hand you parts of their business that they probably had to learn as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is more than being an assistant. It's an operations director, it's a COO, it's a VP of ops, director of ops, whatever you want to call it. The virtual assistant name just isn't enough for what we all do. So
yeah, exactly. And if I think back to when I first started my business, like when someone starts to become self-employed, I know for me, it was like, oh, I'm good at this particular thing. And so, rather than go work for a company, I'm going to do it for myself. And then you find out that running a business is a lot less of that thing than it is all this other stuff you have to do. And that's the kind of stuff that ends up getting delegated to a VA. So it really is a good place to start for a business, right?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you're literally writing my marketing that I do for my clients where we place virtual assistants with. I'm like, you started a business and you wanted to do this service or you had this passion and this was the thing you were going to provide or the product you're going to create. And you along the path started wearing 27 plus hats. And those are all the things that you need to start to delegate and offboard.
Love it. So now on this path, not everything goes as expected. So I'm wondering, we talk about the bad note here. So what was something that didn't work out as planned on your journey and what can we learn from that?
I think there was a lot when I started that I just didn't know. I didn't have a program to follow. I didn't have a mentor and I just figured it out. So I spent years undercharging, working and not billing hours specifically to that client. I'm like, oh, I'm learning or I'm doing this or it's okay. And I just left a lot of opportunity on the table. And then I also worked for a lot of people that I didn't want to work with. I was just taking the carrot, like, oh, they need me, they're asking for my help. I'm just going to do it. And I became very overwhelmed. And I was working for people that I just didn't enjoy. And the market's really changed. So many people are looking for virtual assistants where we're kind of in the position now to cherry pick who our ideal client is or have really good rates. And so I spent a lot of years struggling with that. And once I figured it out, it was sky's the limit and became a lot happier.
Yeah, I think that most of us probably do the undercharging thing. But I think, learning as you go and doing some research and sort of like having these less and undercharging clients is probably something that isn't going to hurt you that badly. But one thing that will hurt you badly is working for the wrong people.
Yes.
I think that's one that, really, I hope that someone's listening to this and goes, if you're not getting a good gut feeling from it, just run.
Just run. Yep. Because it's not going to work.
No, it's not going to work and it's going to drain you and it's going to take away from your passion. Right.
And I'll also add one more thing because I think this is really important. I think having boundaries from the beginning is super important. I was available when you set a precedent that you'll pick up the phone at 8 p.m. or you'll do something on a Saturday morning, you're then available to do that. And that's the expectation. And that was something, learned through the struggle, got those clients out, new clients in, and then I'm like, nope, it's 8 to 5 or whatever the parameters were, and being really balanced with that also changed my life quite a bit.
Yeah. Yep. So for me, what I got in the habit of doing is always respond with, let me get back to you. And even if you're getting back to them in 10 minutes, you're still, because sometimes you're going to get to a point where that 10 minutes is just not going to work for you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. You have to set that expectation right off the bat. But yeah, that's a really, really, really good point, to not jump every time. That even if you have the time, you can still put them off for 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on. So now let's talk about the band a little bit. Let's talk about how you find people, because this is your area. So,
Yeah.
What are your sort of like golden nuggets on how you find people to work with?
Yeah. So I'm a military spouse based in the US. So my market just by nature has been military spouses, and that's how we've started to grow. And I think this demographic is amazing and untapped. We're all displaced. We're all, for the most part, in kind of rural areas. Some are in cities, spaces, but we're for the most educated. Don't have to be though as a virtual assistant. I have VAs that have their master's degree. I have some that have PA, physician assistant's degrees. I have 3 of those. It's crazy. I'm like, you don't want to go do that. All walks of life that just kind of come in. And I'm a huge networker. I think that if you don't walk your talk and get out there and be proud of what you're doing, I go to a lot of personal development conferences, and I just share what I do, and it attracts the kind of people that I want to be able to be powerhouse virtual assistants to then place to our clients. So that's my kind of 2 tactics that I'm currently working on. And yeah, it's going really well.
Okay. So your first tactic was really just figure out who you are.
Yeah.
And play on that.
Play on and own it. I mean, like attracts like, if you've heard that. So
Yep.
Having that confidence and sharing your story and your struggles and being a mentor to people, it just calls in this environment of people. And this is any position. This is for entrepreneurs listening and you're selling your services. And this is for assistants trying to get hired by entrepreneurs, anyone. That's a good way to do it.
And I think that the only reason why people don't do that is, fear, I guess. It's being afraid that you're not gonna be able to pay your bills. So you're like, okay, I'll take any work for anybody, anytime, like whatever. I remember, even just getting started, someone would ask you, who do you help? Who's your target market? Anybody. That's like the wrong answer. No. Always.
Yes. In fact, if you niche down and you're just trying to work for, let's just say, real estate agents, you're probably going to get accountants and attorneys and financial advisors, and very few real estate agents. It's like by showing that expertise in something, people like build trust in you and all of that. But yeah, the anybody thing, oh man, you're going
to have a hard time with that.
For it.
Yeah. And you are going to find yourself in that position that we just talked about, attracting the wrong people, because you are going to be attracting people that just don't get along. Like, I mean, we've all been in that place where there's just certain people that you really get along with just for some reason, and people that you don't. So that's going to happen in your business too. And it's okay.
Absolutely. It's okay. It's just business.
Yeah, exactly. And, especially when we're talking about working from home, I mean, all of our business is done from home, which means that they don't have to be local. They can be anywhere in the world. So think about how many people are like you around the world.
Absolutely.
You don't need to stress out.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Absolutely. Yeah. Such a good point. Important.
Awesome. So now what about the instruments? So, we live in an era where there's tons of tools that we can use to get success in our business. So tell me some of those tools that you use.
So my number one tool for anyone working virtual is a project management tool. My pick is Asana. Probably have talked about this on the show before, but a free tool. There is a paid version, but it manages all your to-do lists, your priorities, who's responsible for what. And when you're working virtually, it just shows all on a team. It shows complete transparency. Like there is a due date. If you didn't get it done, you can comment why. And it just holds everyone accountable. I run my team meetings in Asana. I use it instead of email. Everyone's inbox is like bursting at the seams. and keeping it all in this tool, it's a time saver. It is organized. People are productive. There's several out there that can do this, but Asana is my pick. Working on virtual teams, something I noticed, and this is kind of basic, I suppose, from a tool perspective, but you're getting approached via email, GChat, text message, Voxer, you name it, like phone calls, it just comes at us. Facebook, clients, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? By picking one communication channel to communicate with your team is super, super important. So if it's not Asana, I really like using the walkie-talkie app called Voxer for communicating. It's that one channel. And then if there's something that comes up, it's an SOS, then you pick up the phone or you shoot them a text message. But having those barriers, not only for the client, but especially for the assistant, is super important. Sets boundaries. When you're on the clock, you go to your Voxer and get to work. So I think those are two big things I see in my space.
Yeah, I think this is really, really important because especially with email and even social media, like I know that a lot of people will use that for work. And like you said, there's just so much distraction coming into those channels all the time. And so it's very easy to get sidetracked. And even on something that is work, like you could have maybe a potential client that might message you, and all of a sudden you're off doing something that you're not supposed to be doing at that particular moment. You can have time where, that's sales time and you're out there doing sales at that time. But if your work tasks are mixed in with your sales tasks, then you're going to get pulled back and forth, right?
Right. It's that whole squirrel concept. You're like, oh, squirrel, I'm going to go over here. And then an hour passes by and you're not productive. It just doesn't.
Yeah. And I mean, there is something to be said for being responsive to sales, right?
Yeah.
But depending on when, maybe your role isn't that too. So maybe that might be something that is not even on your list. But if you don't get the work done, the work that you're hired for done because you're too busy doing sales, then you're going to eventually drop clients and it's going to cause you problems. So having some blocks of time would be useful, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. So Asana is your tool of choice for that kind of stuff because it keeps everything in one place.
Absolutely. Game changer. And everyone I introduced to it's like, wow, where has this been? You can see it visually, you can see it as lists. There's lots of different ways depending on how your mind works. But definitely my go-to.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I think that's some good advice. And it gets people in your team, like you said, when you're on the clock, you're in there.
Yep.
Right.
And everything's there, and it's a great also celebration tool because you can see everything that was done for the week. So it's just accountability 101. And when you work virtually, you have to trust your team. You have to trust the new hire that comes in. And this just adds that element.
So let's go back to when you started your business. Like, did you know all this stuff already? Like, where did you learn how to do everything that you do?
Yes. No. Okay. I said yes, no. I did not know any of this. I don't even think, Asana probably did exist, but it wasn't like it is now. So I started with what I knew, and that was social media, which is still in high demand for those that are interested in doing that, email management, and bookkeeping. So invoicing, collecting, expense category, very basic admin tasks, but so incredibly valuable to a client. And I didn't realize that at the time. And I just started with what I knew, landed a client that posted a job posting in one of the groups that I was a part of, and I had a connection with him. So that worked out very well. And then it just snowballed. I got into this whole world of, wow, okay, we have a lot going on. How do I task manage all of this? Let me research task managers, intro Asana. Or, wow, we need to really start email marketing. We need to get some list building going. Started learning ActiveCampaign and ConvertKit over the years, or Infusionsoft. There's so many different tools, and you just have to be open and willing to, okay, there's a way to make this more efficient. Let's go learn this tool, or I want to learn web development and website creation, or auto scheduling and create automated schedulers, or be a master travel booker, or negotiate speaking engagements for clients. I mean, there are tons of things I've done that I had no recollection that I knew how to do when I was 23 years old. So I think that that's a huge awareness for anyone that's starting. You start with what you know, where you're at, and don't discredit your professional experience or your personal experience. We're all on our phones. We all, for the most part, know social media. So just add scheduling into your thing and see where it takes you.
Yeah. So now, yeah, because it is a very much a learn as you go type thing. Now, I'm wondering though, like, do you participate in any type of like masterminds, or do you hire coaches or anything like that?
Yeah. So it took me, I started hiring coaches about 5 years, way too late into my career, and it completely changed the game. So I mentioned earlier, like attracts like. So by elevating yourself into these conversations with coaches or mentors, it just up leveled my game. I made the investment, so I was accountable to myself for showing up and using this time and asking the right questions and doing the work and listening to what my coaches were saying. But it also linked me to this huge community. So just one coach I hired in 2019, she's actually the former president of Chicken Soup for the Soul, the books that we probably all grew up with, several of us.
Yeah.
Very well-off woman, and hired her to be my mentor. Biggest investment I've ever made. And now I'm her VP of operations, and she's funneling business into my virtual assistant management company on autopilot because she's got this huge network. So by being open to that, it led to, wow, what can I do for you? What can I help you with? And she's just up-leveled me and introduced me to people that I never thought would be possible just by introducing myself to the world of mentorship and paid coaching.
So you mentioned that you hired a coach way too late. Mm-hmm. What held you back? What was it?
I think it was the investment. I think that, we were hours for dollars. So everything that gets spent is like our money. Realizing now that actually spending some money on your business really helps you with taxes, and it helps you grow in more ways than you know. But yeah, it was just that. And I think belief in myself, as a virtual assistant starting out, I was like, it's just my little business. This is what I do. I wouldn't introduce myself the way I do today. So there was a lot of confidence there, blockage and limiting beliefs in what I really had and what I was actually doing for clients. I had a conversation yesterday where the game really is changing. Virtual assistants need to wear a different lens. We are truly the point person on several of these people's businesses, and the word assistant just doesn't really do it anymore. So I think I held that for several years.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's really relatable because number one, what you said about the not being serious about your business is like, I think that's fine though. I mean, I think a lot of people really do start it as a side hustle, and it's just this little thing, and it grows and grows and ends up being something, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the investment of spending some money on a coach, I mean, it is incredible that people spend so much money on a university degree with no plan at all. Yeah. It's just like, well, I'm supposed to go to university. So, what are you going to major in? Oh, maybe I'll major in this, maybe I'll, like what?
I know.
And then when it comes to your business, you're like, oh, should I spend a few $100s on a coach? I don't know. It's a lot of money, and it turns out that like when I talk to people, like, sometimes when you spend thousands of dollars on a coach, that's when you really get a massive breakthrough, and people are scared to spend a few hundred, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So I think it's a matter of like maybe just kind of like flipping it around a little bit. And when someone thinks about going to a career and they go and spend some money on a degree, that's not a big deal. You go take a loan for it. And here we're worried about taking a little bit of your extra income and putting it into a coach, right?
Yep. It just needs to be a part of your if you want to break it down, you make 10% of this goes to personal and professional development, and just put it aside and don't look at it and use it when you need it. Something like that. If you have a really big block, I think that's a super important key to growth and scaling and really taking ownership of you as a business person.
Yeah, I like that strategy, taking some money and putting it into a category of personal growth. Because I'm speaking from experience as well. Like it took me forever to hire somebody, mind you, I was out there and taking free course after free course after free course, but really I found that things really expanded a lot faster when I put some money into it. And I think it's just probably a skin in the game type thing. You don't take things seriously when they're free, right?
Oh, yep. Yes. I've learned that.
Yeah, right on. Well, you know what? It is time for your guest solo. So I want to know more about what's going on and what's exciting in your business.
Yeah. So with the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, things were status quo. We get some placements here and there. We are bombarded right now with solo entrepreneurs, business owners, even corporations needing virtual support. It's just snowballed tenfold. No longer are companies needing the person inside an office, the high expense, the benefits, all of that. They're looking for contractors. I call it fractional virtual assisting. They can buy a portion of your time, which lends really well to people needing flexible work. A lot of our community and students are stay-at-home moms, kids go to school, they can plug in, do 4 to 6 hours of work and be present for their kids, go to the soccer games, go to the field trips, all of that, or they're world travelers, or they're military spouses that are displaced constantly. Sometimes they wear multiple hats. And so this is it's been a big year of supply and demand. And, just like everyone, you going through town and you see there's help wanted signs everywhere in the world. Virtual assistants are in high demand. So I run an academy, a training academy for people that are starting to become virtual assistants, or those that have a little experience, but they're really trying to step up their game. And we certify you as virtual assistants, and then we place you with clients through our management team. You can certainly go through my program and land paying clients. It happens every day. But we also provide this path for you, so you're not going at it alone. I'm really, really proud of the work I do. It's the most gratifying thing I've ever done. And I had no idea this was coming into my world when I started becoming a VA. So it's just wherever you are and where you want to take it.
Wow. I think this is a great path, because if you're wanting to start a business and you don't know what to do, then a VA is a great way to start, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like what you said about how this doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be going out there and finding other solopreneurs and working for them. You can actually start a business and work for other businesses doing this as well, right?
Yeah, majority of our clients are marketing companies.
Yeah.
We're talking 40 people staff, not one.
Well, and I mean, this trend is huge. I remember when because I used to work in a cubicle for one of the biggest companies in Canada, and near the tail end of that, they ended up going bankrupt, which is, but what was happening is that they were hiring more and more contractors. They weren't interested in hiring employees anymore. So, and I remember for myself, when I started my business, I was interested in contracting because I didn't want one client. I didn't want to work for one business, because if they went bankrupt, screwed. Yeah. So, having multiple clients was attractive to me, because if I lose one, that's fine. I got a few more that I don't lose all my income. And so, doing something like this and going and finding a few different clients that, because they don't need somebody full-time, that's a benefit to you, right? Oh,
completely. Yeah. A benefit for both. Everyone wins. And the tribe that is in the VA world, they appreciate flexibility. They want to be rewarded for their work, and they want to just have a purpose. And I always say to my VAs, you're creating your work around your lifestyle, where other people create their lifestyle around their work. That's the golden ticket. So
love it. How do we find out more about this?
Yeah, for those of you wanting to become virtual assistants, virtualassistantacademy.com is my training program. Fully take care of you. Really excited to have anyone interested in that. And virtualassistantmanagement.com is our placement agency. And I'm Molly Rose Speed, and I'm on all social channels.
Thank you so much for rocking out with me today, Molly. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. I loved it.
Cool. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment, and we'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.